unfortunately, Congressman Murtha said, I'm just going to throw 8 Marines under the bus to get a political point across. Long story short, I think it took us 3.5 years to exonerate Colonel Shasani. Had the charges dropped, and he was allowed to retire honorably. Of the other 8 Marines that were charged, there are 7 of them that have been exonerated, acquitted, or had the charges dropped. There's one guy that hasn't even started his trial yet. That shows, and they're still prosecuting him, knowing what their track record is. I can tell you as a prosecutor, that is not being an officer of the court if you're still going after people like that. That was the most proud thing I did at the Thomas More Law Center, but we did a lot of great things there. To defending our traditions and heritage, like having a nativity scene in the town square. All these sorts of constitutional issues. We were getting ready to fight moving the Guantanamo prisoners from Guantanamo to Standish, which was a horrible idea. I can't remember where Mark Shower stood on it. I think he equivocated, but I think in the end he may have said, yeah, let's move them up there because it'll create jobs. If anybody ever been to Standish, the prison's built in the middle of town. Wherever Al-Qaeda is housed throughout the world, every single place, I believe, Al-Qaeda has tried to break them out by going to that town and trying to bust them out. The best example, the one you'll probably all remember, is in Breslin, where it was in Russia, where they took over an elementary school and then eventually killed all the kids. They were trying to bust out their buddies in prison that was built around the town of Breslin. And you can't put anything past Al-Qaeda. Oh, it can't happen in America. Well, yes, it can. Look at 9/11. Look what happened on Christmas Day when you had this bomber. And Mark Shower's response to that, remember what his response to that was? Well, we need more body scanners. Well, guess what? That body scanner wouldn't have picked up what that guy had in his pants that day. You need common sense. It's a lot cheaper than the I think it's $250,000 pop body scanner. And I think finally the president said recently that we're going to start using common sense to figure out, who these bad guys are. The Israelis don't have body scanners because they study people. When I was in law school, we got a course from an investigator that said, what are the indicia of drug dealers? They buy one-way tickets with cash. They don't have luggage. They don't dress appropriately. All these sorts of things. Well, this bomber from Nigeria, he did buy a round-trip ticket, but he bought it with cash, no luggage. He was in the middle of wintertime, and he was wearing a short-sleeve shirt, I remember. And oh, by the way, his father told the embassy, hey, my son's radicalized. You might want to keep an eye on him. Oh, you got a visa? And the worst part about it is they did know that the guy was there, and they said, well, we'll talk to him when he gets off the plane. Well, guess what their MO is? It's blowing up planes. So let's talk to him after we get off the plane. I'll tell you one thing that I agree with, I think it's Mike or Mark Pence from Indiana. He was one of the guys that voted against the Iraq war resolution. I was always wondering why, because he's very conservative. Well, he voted against it out of principle because he believes that Congress has abrogated its constitutional duties to declare war. And I agree with him. Congress needs to start declaring war again. We should have declared war in Afghanistan because Taliban ran Afghanistan. And they wouldn't necessarily have the problems you have right now with Guantanamo. We try these people in civilian courts or military courts. You try them in military courts because they're war crimes. These are acts of war. What that guy did coming into Detroit was an act of war. Great liberal, FDR. 6 Nazis came ashore in 1942 on Long Island. We captured all of them. Within 6 months, they were all hung. Nobody knew about it because there were secret military tribunals that tried them all and then hung them. We had Khalid Sheikh Mohammed down in Guantanamo Bay for, I don't know, 8 years now. And they were saying we're going to try him in a federal court up in New York City. No, we don't know what's going to happen to him. This guy personally planned 9/11, and we can't hang him within 6 months. I'm not a huge proponent of the death penalty, but if anybody deserves it, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed does. And we can't figure out what to do with the guy. That shows you the impasse we're at in our politics and as a people who we are, and trying to identify, our enemy. Our enemy is radical Islam, and we can't not name our enemy. And there's a lot of them. It might be a minority. There's 1 billion Muslims in the world. Guess how many are radicalized? About 20%. That's 200 million people. It's a lot of people. We have 350 million people in this country. It's a big country that is radicalized that want to destroy us.